Hi there and welcome to the podcast. My name is Danielle Begg and I'm the co-founder of the Yoga Impact Charity and founder of Body, Mind, Heart Training. Over the past 10 years, I've been sharing trauma-informed yoga programs in diverse communities, leading yoga teacher trainings and events, and collecting all things evidence-based mind-body wisdom in relation to trauma recovery. Through these trainings, community programs and events, we've cultivated a community of like minds and hearts doing amazing things in the world. I want to extend this opportunity to connect more broadly and to make this information more accessible. So in this podcast, we'll be exploring interviews with a range of people doing inspiring trauma recovery work in their community. But before we talk to them, I'm going to do something a little bit different and put myself in the hot seat. Today, for our very first episode, I'll be joined by my good friend, sustainable fashion guru and author, Faye Delanty, as we explore my career shift from policy advisor to social entrepreneur and dive into all things trauma-informed yoga. Thank you so much for joining me, and we really hope that you find this resource and the interviews that follow full of inspiration and practical wisdom for your life.
Divine Miss Danielle, it is such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for having me. Can we kick things off by telling the good people listening a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Danielle Begg and I'm the founder of Body, Mind, Heart Training and the co-founder of the Yoga Impact Charity. And the Yoga Impact Charity is an organisation that shares trauma-informed, evidence-based yoga with diverse communities. And the Body, Mind, Heart Training is all about training and events in the mind-body trauma recovery space. So since we launched 10 years ago, we've created impact for over 32,000 people who've participated in the yoga programs. And we've graduated almost 200 yoga teachers from our teacher training, and they're all teaching yoga programs or integrating the techniques into their work as healthcare workers. And it began, for me, I have a background in psychology, and the kind of teaching or my style is very much related to my experience and my journey. So I integrate aspects of psychology, somatic therapy and yoga in my teaching style. And that's very much drawn from my studies in psychology and also my perspective in public policy and also additional research that I've done in this space. And it's very much about combining these elements and sharing them in a bit of a unique way to a standard studio training. And I came back from Australia after studying in the UK, and I was really interested in how yoga could be applied in a therapeutic setting with people from different backgrounds. And I was looking for an organisation that I could volunteer with, but I couldn't find any. And so I'm very fortunate that I was able to create my own organisation with the support of the Vasudhara Foundation. And since then, it's really kind of taken on a life and a momentum of its own, and it's evolved from there. And in 2021, we set up a teacher training component, which was really a game changer in terms of our impact and reach. And it meant that we could, empower people from their communities to teach their own programs rather than me leading them. Or it also meant that people who were interested in integrating this work into their jobs as healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, psychologists could do that or could begin to teach yoga classes as well alongside their existing work.
I mean, just take a moment to think about all of that. Look at what you've done. It's extraordinary. I'm so incredibly proud of you. And like you said, you started on a completely different path. So you graduated from Oxford, you were forging a career in policy, you have the psychology background. How do you go from that to having this huge shift and then completely just changing track? Where did all of this come from?
Thank you for saying that. I think I was definitely on a particular track in life, and my early career was really about public policy. I had worked as an advisor at the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, and I was studying a master's at Oxford, and I had, I guess, dreams about working in the policy space. And I certainly didn't expect that I would become a yoga teacher and that things would shift so dramatically. But there was a deep desire at that point within me to connect to people in a more meaningful way than I was. I've always wanted to have impact, and I was never really sure what I wanted to do and the way that I was going to make a contribution and have impact. And so I was kind of searching for something like that. While I was in Oxford and studying, I was in my head a lot and found it a really intense environment. And so I turned to meditation. I discovered meditation at that point and then discovered yoga, and really at that point recognized that this was a really helpful tool to calm my mind, to help me physiologically. And then I dove right in because it was helping me so much. I just wanted to do it more and more. And I read everything I could about it, and I started talking to friends who were interested in it, and I did a teacher training, not with the intention of becoming a teacher, but in understanding more deeply what this was all about and why it was having such a positive impact. And it was around the same time that there was quite an explosion in research talking about the evidence base behind why some of these techniques were really powerful and helpful for the brain and for the body. And so I started to think, wouldn't it be great, especially with my policy brain, wouldn't it be great if we could apply these interventions within healthcare settings and that everybody could access them? And actually, how is this not happening already? And so I started to become really curious about whether or not that was possible. And when I came back to Australia, I was really interested in making that happen and creating that as a possibility. But I didn't ever intend for it to be as impactful and far-reaching as it is now.
It's so amazing. I found meditation too many years ago, and I know that you and I have connected on that level as well. And I think it really speaks to that mind-body connection, and that once you do really tap into that quiet space within yourself, magic can really happen. And I know that what you do with the Yoga Impact Charity is so much more than just a standard yoga class. So can you paint the picture for us of what it is and how it unfolds?
We know that people who've experienced trauma, there are often particular aspects to their physiology, like being stuck in a state of sympathetic arousal. And we know that yoga can have a really significant impact on the mind and the body. I mean, they're still talking about the mechanisms for why yoga actually has impact, but there's so much research that comes up over and over again that the breathing regulation that's used in yoga has a really significant impact on the brain and the body, and that it triggers the relaxation response. And for people who've experienced trauma, who might be stuck in a really hyper-aroused state, we know that this triggering of the relaxation response can have a really powerful impact. And so what we're doing when we come to a trauma-informed yoga class is we're thinking about what are some of the really simple evidence-based techniques that we can include in a class that might help this particular group of people feel better at the end, and how can we share education around what's actually happening in their body so they can choose whether or not they want to do this technique, but also if it's useful, they can utilise it when they go home or when they're having trouble sleeping or if they're trying to calm down in a challenging situation. So it's really about educating people about their body and the way that it works, and very simple practical tools that they can use alongside other things. When we go into an environment, it's often quite different to a studio. So we partner with not-for-profits and schools, and it looks really quite different to a studio. So, for instance, you might be working in a prison environment, or you might be working in a not-for-profit that has a small amount of space. And so it's quite a different environment with different norms and situations that you're utilising. And then the other main way that it's different is you are meeting the people that you're working with, or the person that you're working with, and trying to understand what it is they need from the practice. So do they need to find some techniques for self-regulation and to soothe the nervous system? Or do they need techniques to help with psychosomatic pain? Do they need techniques to help them sleep at night? Or are they finding themselves super depressed and needing techniques to give them more energy and help them feel active? So just talking to each of the people in the groups that we're working with and trying to find out what is it that they're actually seeking, and then how might we match that with our techniques, or how could we refer them to people who could do a better job at doing that?
I think we all need you in our pockets. I mean, these are life skills. This should have been taught at school, in my opinion. You know, these are the things that modern medicine kind of forgets about sometimes, is that spiritual connection, that mind-body connection. So over the years, you must have had so many incredible experiences. I mean, tell me about the different groups of people that you're working with.
Yeah, I'm really, really lucky to have met so many different people over the past 10 years from all different backgrounds, all different ages, like primary school kids who've just arrived from Syria up until people in their 90s, all practicing for different reasons and seeking different things, but also carrying a lot of wisdom from their journeys. And I feel very blessed because I've had the opportunity to understand a lot of different wisdom from many different cultural backgrounds. I've worked a lot with refugee groups in particular, from all different backgrounds. And so I feel that I've had the opportunity to learn about lots of different cultures and wisdoms and traditional practices, and also lots of different bodies at different stages of life. So I feel very grateful. Obviously, I've had my own experiences, and that's obviously been a profound experience with the practice, but it's been wonderful to learn so much about different bodies and different cultures, and also different environments as well. One of my first, or in the early days of teaching, I went into Villawood Detention Centre and was working with asylum seekers who had been detained there for quite a long period of time. And it was quite an interesting environment and quite challenging for a lot of obvious reasons. And it was a really interesting perspective. Each of the different groups that I've worked with, I've had very different experiences each time. And so that's kept me really listening to what it is people need and changing and evolving my style rather than maintaining, a very static perspective, which I feel is very aligned with a trauma-informed response. It isn't rigid. There's not a set of rules that we're following. We're always changing and evolving and learning new things.
Like life, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fluid, and that style really resonates with me, and it's been a very natural journey in developing that because of, the very different people I've worked with.
And you created the teacher training. So tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what was the catalyst for that, and who's it for?
Yeah, so the intention with the teacher training was always about how can we empower people within the communities that we're working in to become teachers themselves if they want to, so they can be sharing the practice, because there is evidence that that's actually a really key part of trauma recovery and even post-traumatic growth, for people to take the wisdom from challenging experiences that they've had, and if they want to, if that's a part of their journey, to be sharing that in their community. So it was always an intention with the yoga programs to expand in that way, and also just in order of having impact and reach, it just meant that we were able to expand the amount of programs that we were teaching, but also another key piece, that people from healthcare disciplines would be able to integrate it within their work. So not only were we impacting in terms of offering programs, but healthcare suddenly begins to shift when we have all of these practitioners who are skilled in mind-body techniques, and they start integrating that into their work. Suddenly, healthcare looks a bit different, which is always in the back of my mind with this journey. And so the teacher training really unlocked a lot of key pieces in terms of the vision for this work. And we started in 2021. So it was obviously, we were in and out of lockdowns, and it was a really interesting time to start the teacher training. But for that reason, it was very flexible and accessible right from the beginning. So it's online and in person. 5 in Sydney, and we've done 2 in Melbourne. So we've done a total of 7 trainings, and we'll do another one next year. And really, this is a community of almost 200 teachers now. Really, this is about offering people, once they've finished the training, an opportunity to teach trauma-informed yoga within community through the Yoga Impact Charity, or if that doesn't interest them, they might set their own work up, or they might integrate it within their job as a doctor or a psychologist or a social worker. And so really that way we really begin to have quite significant impact.
It's amazing. So proud of you. I imagine over the years that building something that has such big, beautiful wings like the Yoga Impact Charity does, there would have been some obstacles and some challenges. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked a lot in our journey over the years of the obstacles, and there have been quite a few. And I think, initially the biggest obstacle was creating something from nothing and getting that momentum to teach in different community organisations was really difficult. Had lists of organisations and people to contact within them that I was cold calling, and a lot of people either weren't interested or thought it was a good idea but was super busy because that sector is so under-resourced. Organisations have their own politics. There were a lot of challenges to getting things set up initially, and that was really difficult, particularly when I was kind of comparing myself to other friends who were on more traditional tracks, and also to my former self who had a lot more resources to do the things I needed to do. And then I was kind of working with limited resources in order to create the vision that I had in my mind. But thankfully, we were supported by the Vasudhara Foundation to do an evaluation, and that evaluation showed that the yoga program improved post-traumatic stress disorder within 9 classes.
Wow.
And it reduced depression within 12 classes. And that was in addition to the physical benefits of the practice, where people were reporting improved sleep and reduced physical pain, and also the benefits of coming together as a group, where people were talking about feeling an enhanced sense of community and also feeling like they were part of a group and having fun. So that evaluation was really helpful in terms of creating legitimacy and credibility with other organisations. But the other thing that was really helpful was people started to ask services for the yoga programs. And now it's evolved to the point where we have a waiting list and there's a really high demand that we really struggle to keep up with. But in the beginning, it was really, really difficult. And without the support of my friends and without the support of the Vasudhara Foundation, who offered financial support and strategic support, there's absolutely no way that we would be here today.
Did you find that some people didn't really understand it as well?
100%. It was really difficult. I couldn't understand what people didn't understand because
it's so obvious.
Like I had my own experiences with it. There was so much evidence, and I particularly got frustrated when there was so much clear evidence for why people couldn't get what we were trying to do, and
they needed some yoga.
It was really quite frustrating because obviously you have a vision about what you want to do and you can see it in your mind.
You can see it, yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of can't really understand, like, why is everyone not on board? Why doesn't this happen already? And things take a lot longer than you think they're going to. Like the teacher training, I wanted to set up, well before 2021, but it took a lot to create and to do, and there were obstacles, like COVID, and things just took a lot longer. And so now that there's been quite a few obstacles, obviously I still feel really frustrated when they happen, but I do kind of recognise it's just part and parcel of the journey.
Did yoga really help you through all of that process? And
absolutely, yeah. I found yoga, I tend to get, really caught in a stressed mindset. I'm quite academic and heady, and I find it really helpful just to do simple things, simple breathing techniques, body scans, gentle movement. I find all of that really, really helpful. But also the thing that helped me, which is also related to yoga, but I guess less talked about, was aligning with my values. And it's been a really important journey for understanding what's meaningful for me, and to anchor into that through the obstacles that come up has been really wonderful, because I think before that, in my other work, I didn't have as deep an understanding about what was important to me. And for that reason, I felt like I hadn't found the thing I wanted to do. Whereas with this, I kind of know that this is an expression of my deepest values. I feel very aligned and very passionate about it. And so those deeper feelings kind of carry me through. And yoga kind of really supports that journey of self-reflection and alignment with philosophy and your values.
Do you think you would have got there mentally without the yoga and the meditation, or do you think that was the real catalyst that kind of opened up that window in your mind to have this idea and have this connection and to give you the strength to keep going through that challenging journey?
There is absolutely no way that I would be on this path without yoga and meditation, because I would never have imagined it possible. And even with yoga and meditation, it was hard to imagine. But I think the way it opened my mind up and my perspective to the possibility of finding an organisation like the Vasudhara Foundation, who then supported me with the things I needed at the right time.
Just takes the one person to believe, right?
That's right, yeah. And then you kind of align with other people that are really interested, and I think that creates, its own momentum. Whereas I think had I not been spending time meditating and doing yoga, I would have kind of stayed in a very narrow focus of what my life could be like, what was possible, and I would have stayed aligned with people kind of who shared that perspective, I think, as well.
It really gives you that sense of limitless and unboundedness, It's powerful. Where else do you draw inspiration from?
I draw a lot of inspiration from the people that I work with, and I feel incredibly lucky to hear their stories, to understand some of the wisdom that they carry intergenerationally as well sometimes, and the perspectives that they have. And it gives me a lot of inspiration in terms of thinking about how I can do my best work, and also how I can support them to do their work as well. And what I was talking about before, where it's always different, it's always changing, it's always evolving. And so this was one of the reasons why I thought this podcast was really important, because it was about highlighting the inspiring things that people are doing in their communities, particularly in the kind of climate that we're existing in at the moment, where people who are using relatively simple techniques to make other people's lives better. And I think it's really important to kind of amplify that as best that I can. And at the same time, it also gives me a lot of inspiration listening to some of these stories and hearing the way that this practice can empower people.
And it certainly is, my darling. What's next? What's manifesting in that gorgeous big brain of yours?
I'm really excited at the moment that I'm working on mentoring quite a few teachers, newer teachers that are interested in setting up community programs. So we had a training in Melbourne this year, and there's a bunch of teachers who are currently in the process of setting up new programs, which I really love. And it's really exciting because everybody has their own vision about how they want that to unfold. And so at the Yoga Impact Charity, we're really interested in supporting obviously many different populations have experienced trauma, and so we're really open to co-creating with people and their visions, and so I really enjoy that process. I'm also writing a book at the moment. We, over the past 10 years, have been collecting a lot of mind-body wisdom techniques for trauma recovery, and also through the trainings and the programs, I have had the benefit of seeing what techniques land really well for a lot of people, and I am currently kind of distilling that into a bit of a guide of quick wins for people looking for nervous system regulation, but also inspiring stories. So a lot of the stories that we're talking about in the podcast are contained in the book as well. And so that is also really exciting to be synthesizing a lot of the information that I've collected over the years into a really punchy, short, impactful and easily digestible book.
I love that, synthesizing. Give us a quick win then. What's a quick win that we can use in our daily life to feel better?
Yeah, I think I mentioned before that one of the reasons why yoga is so powerful, the research keeps talking about the impact of the breath on the nervous system. And there are so many techniques from the yoga world that impact and regulate the nervous system. So one of the quickest and easiest things that you can do is just to sit down and just to begin to look inside, and if it feels comfortable, to begin to shift the rhythm of the breath. And so it could be as simple as breathing in for 4 and then breathing out for 4, breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 4. And just doing that for a couple of minutes is the quickest way to shift your nervous system. And you can go from an activated state to a regulated state and feel completely different within 2 minutes.
Amazing. I'm going to do that when I get home.
I was doing it before this.
I also find getting up early and, trying to see the sunrise, meditating, just taking that time for yourself. I think it's such a busy world that we forget to do that, and we're always trying to get somewhere and do something and prove something, and just to take that time to be still. The work that you're doing is so incredibly powerful, and it's such a pleasure to sit with you today. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Faye. It's been such an honour to be chatting with you and to be sharing in this way, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, gorgeous.